There's a specific kind of exhaustion, not the kind that comes from working too hard or sleeping too little. It's the exhaustion that comes from thinking about the same person over and over, even when every part of you knows they weren't right for you. You've had the conversations with yourself, you've listed the reasons, you know what they did, you know how it made you feel, and yet, at 2 a.m. in the quiet, when there's nothing left to distract you, there they are. If that's ever been you, this video is going to explain something that no one in your life probably told you, because this isn't weakness, it's not stupidity, it's not you being dramatic, it's your brain doing exactly what it was wired to do. And once you understand how, you'll never look at that feeling the same way again. Here's something most people get wrong about painful attachments. They assume that the strength of the feeling, the pull, the obsession, the inability to just let go, reflects the quality of what was there. I must have really loved them. I can't stop thinking about them. But that's not how the brain works. The strength of an attachment is not determined by how good someone was to you. It's determined by how unpredictable they were. Psychologists have a term for the mechanism behind this. It's called intermittent reinforcement, and it is, without exaggeration, the single most powerful psychological force keeping people locked inside painful relationships long after those relationships have ended. Intermittent reinforcement is what happens when reward, affection, warmth, attention, love is given inconsistently. Sometimes they were warm, attentive, present. They made you feel like the only person in the room. And other times, cold, distant, unavailable, like you were imagining the closeness you'd felt before. That inconsistency, that push and pull, doesn't weaken attachment. It amplifies it dramatically. In the 1950s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner ran an experiment that accidentally became one of the most important discoveries in behavioral science. He was studying how animals responded to reward, and he found something unexpected. When a reward was given consistently, animals learned the behavior and moved on. They were satisfied. But when the reward was unpredictable, given sometimes, withheld other times with no clear pattern, something else happened entirely. The animals became obsessed. They kept trying. They persisted longer. They worked harder for the reward than animals who received it reliably. The uncertainty didn't discourage them. It consumed them. Your brain runs on the same operating system. When someone is consistently warm to you, your brain registers them as safe, known, present. But when they're sometimes warm, sometimes cold, sometimes there, sometimes completely withdrawn, your brain doesn't file them under safe. It files them under unresolved. And the human brain has a compulsive relationship with unresolved things. We return to them. We rehearse them. We replay them at 2 a.m., not because we're weak, because our brain is trying desperately to find the pattern, to make the unpredictable predictable, to finally feel safe. The cruelest part? The brain releases dopamine, not when the reward arrives, but in anticipation of it. Every time you think of them, there's a small chemical flicker of hope, which is why thinking about them in a disturbing way can feel almost good, even when it hurts. You're not addicted to them. You're addicted to the possibility of them. Let's make this real. Think about what the pattern actually looked like. There were moments, maybe many of them, where everything felt right, where they were present and warm, and you felt genuinely seen. Maybe it was a conversation that went on for hours. Maybe it was the way they looked at you once. Maybe it was just a moment where you felt, for the first time in a long time, that you weren't alone. And then something shifted. They pulled back, got busy, got cold, started responding differently. And you naturally, reasonably, tried to get back to that first version. You reached, you adjusted, you tried harder, you became smaller or louder or different. not because you were desperate, but because you had felt something real and you were trying to get back to it. Here's what intermittent reinforcement does over time. It trains you to associate the effort of trying to reach someone, the anxiety, the waiting, the hope, with love itself. Love starts to feel like it should be uncertain, like it should require work, like the warmth is only valuable because it's rare. And when that relationship ends, when that person is no longer there to give you even the rare moments of warmth, your brain is still running the program, still scanning, still hoping, still waiting for the reward that used to come. There's no one left to reach for. So you reach into memory instead. That's why you can't stop thinking about them, not because of who they were, but because of the loop they created inside you. But here's where it gets more complicated, because intermittent reinforcement alone doesn't fully explain why some people can't let go, while others move on more easily from similar experiences. The other piece, the piece that almost never gets talked about, is what psychologists call the attachment wound. Most people who find themselves obsessively attached to someone who treated them inconsistently didn't first encounter inconsistency in that relationship. They encountered it much earlier. In the first place they ever looked for love, in the first relationship that was supposed to be safe. When a child grows up with a caregiver who is inconsistently available, warm sometimes, withdrawn other times, present, but not always emotionally there, that child's nervous system learns something specific. It learns love is something you earn. Love is something that can disappear. Love requires you to manage yourself carefully, or it will go away. And decades later, in an adult body, in adult relationships, that same nervous system recognizes the pattern, not consciously, not as a choice, but at the level of the body. Someone who blows hot and cold doesn't feel dangerous to a person with this wound. They feel familiar. They feel like home, even if home was never entirely safe. This is not a character flaw. This is not stupidity. This is a nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do, seeking out the emotional environment it learned to navigate as a child, because that's the one it knows how to survive. There's a question worth sitting with, not why did they do this to me? That question keeps you focused on them, on what they owe you, on the explanation you never received. The more important question is this: what did that uncertainty feel like, and had you felt it before? Where in your life did you first learn to chase warmth? Where did you first decide that love was something you had to work for rather than something you could simply receive? The person you can't stop thinking about may not have been the origin of this. They may have simply been the most recent version of a pattern your heart already knew how to follow, and that changes the question entirely. The question isn't, how do I stop thinking about them? The question is, what is this feeling trying to show me about what I learned love was supposed to feel like? That question is harder, it's slower, but it's the one that actually leads somewhere. Understanding the mechanism doesn't fix it overnight. Naming intermittent reinforcement doesn't immediately silence the 2 a.m. thoughts. Recognizing the attachment wound doesn't erase what it taught you to want. But there is something that happens when you understand a pattern, a small but irreversible shift. You stop experiencing the feeling as a verdict on who you are, and you start seeing it as information about what you've been through. The obsession doesn't mean you love the wrong person. It means your nervous system was doing its job, seeking the familiar, trying to resolve the unresolved, looking for safety in the one emotional language it already knew. The part of you that can't let go isn't broken. It's trying to protect you the way it always has, the way it learned to. But you can learn a new language, not overnight, but slowly, the way most real things happen. In the next video, we're going to talk about the person on the other side of this dynamic. the one who pulls away, not because they don't feel, but because of what feeling too much taught them to do. It's more complicated than you think.